Hey there, welcome to episode 68 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, recording this at 5:15 p.m. on Thursday, March 13th, 2025. Today, the title of the episode is Literally and Figuratively, and I mean that figuratively and literally. The FFS Talk audio program is, ideally, someday, an opportunity to have a conversation about what works, what does not, and what we might do about it. The topics selected over the last 68 episodes, including this one, are audio essays, monologues, if you like, that will hopefully seed some conversations or will at least set the stage for discussion. Really, at this point, they are an opportunity for yours truly to share some opinions, thoughts, ideas. They're always open for additional conversation, and so hopefully that will come to pass. I have to be honest, I haven't really been reaching out to people for this one. I need to see what kind of an audience I have. So maybe I should start doing this. Hey, if you're curious or interested, come on down. The FFS Talk audio program is named for an Irish expression. If you don't know what FFS means, you need to hang out with more Irish people. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description. That works better. The episode description contains the show notes with a summary that I did not finish typing. That's pretty funny. I don't know if I'll finish that. My bad. I was spending more time on the my notes for today's episode. The summary, though, we'll see what we can come up with. And the links section, which contains the 2 shameless self-promotion links about coffee and 4 links appropriate for today's episode about some words. So let's get the party started. Okay, I paused. You probably didn't notice. I paused and I filled in the summary. So let's see if what I just came up with works. Summary of today's episode. One fun feature of the one single language spoken in the United States, if you believe some executive orders, is that it is always changing. Are you always current on what those words mean, where they come from, and how they are being used? ? And by the way, I am not a linguist. I'm not particularly good at English. I'm okay. I've been using it for a while, but I could always improve it. I certainly don't speak enough of any other language to be authoritative in interpreting or surmising meanings of foreign words. Is that the right way to use that term? Words from other languages they don't have to be foreign. They can be from right here. Words in other languages that are used because they may lack a really good translation. They may work in place as is, but does everyone have that same sort of mental transformation, if not a translation, so that the intended meaning comes across? Who can say? So this is really a super high level, one person's view, speaking with others that are more in tune with linguistics, language translation, writing in general, might be interesting. So this, as with so many previous episodes, a seed planted on this topic. The links for today's episode, buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo, Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo. That's DANHUGO for both. No obligation to spend any money. These are my outreach, engagement, fan contact, however you want to look at it, tools. I've had these both of these profiles or both platforms in use in this manner for many years now, and I can't say that I'm like raking in the dough, because that's not the goal. But I do use the buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo profile page as a freeform link tree of sorts, links to all of my audio programs, all of my GitHub repos, mostly, projects, undertakings, a little bit of a bio at the top, and then way at the top, a link to the posts section where I post every Monday now. Buy me an update exclusively on Buy Me a Coffee. It's 5 minutes or less, usually less. A quick rundown of the previous week's audio programs, and then whatever's coming up next. It's a place where I can make an announcement or other such thing across all of my creative work. So I can always refer to the Buy Me an Update update for a brief, here's what's coming or here's what's changed, etc. Ko-fi.com/DanHugo does not enable the hosting of audio. Buy Me a Coffee hosts the actual audio for the Buy Me an Update audio program. So Ko-fi, Ko-fi.com, I place some text updates. I should use both of these a little bit more often, but chicken, egg, if a million people said, why are you not updating Ko-fi.com? I would say, oh, I'll get right on that. Literally. The American Dictionary of the English Language. Got to watch my word use here. Wikipedia link to that. It is the Webster's, Noah Webster created this dictionary. I believe it was 1828. You can check that out there. There are some other websites dedicated to like the archive, some sort of a recreation, I guess, online of the Webster's 1828 dictionary. I think it's 1828. Am I getting that right? Let me check this out here. 1828. Do I still have that link? No, of course not. I think there was let me see if I still have it. Webster's Dictionary 1828.com. I'm not referring to that really. So, but if you're curious, you can see what Webster came up with. The thing about the Webster's Dictionary, which I will touch on shortly, you ever see a word like color, which I will use this again, but color, C-O-L-O-U-R. Oh, that must be the British spelling. So this 1828 Noah Webster's Dictionary, American Dictionary of the English Language. So American Dictionary of the English Language was an attempt to move away from Great Britain, the British language. So kind of owning the variant that was found through the colonies. And it's interesting, and then eventually to the United States. But it's interesting that the American English was not in use when America, the United States, was formed. Even the word America actually is subject to debate, but that's for another time. America is often a larger place: North America, South America, Central America, etc. So the American Dictionary, which is the United States in 1828, the first English dictionary by Johnson. What was his first name? I will tell you. Johnson's Dictionary of the English Language. Now, this was considered a de facto authoritative compendium of the English language. And what is his name? Samuel Johnson, of course. Samuel Johnson in 1755 was published. And it was, to quote Wikipedia here, among the most influential dictionaries in the history of the English language. So that's an interesting read, but that was from British English. And at the time, for example, the Constitution of the United States was written, British English was more common. Nobody had really codified the evolving American English, United States, colonies, which is a language made up of many additions from other languages, which makes it kind of interesting. You could say it's a rapprochement of different languages. We'll touch on that as well in a moment. I will say that, again, I'm not a linguist, but I do find the use of words and how they are changed over time to be interesting and worth paying attention to. The American Dictionary of English Language and the first English dictionary, two Wikipedia links. You can check those out by Webster and Johnson, respectively. Rapprochement, I just use that term with my best bad French accent. A Wikipedia page to that. Rapprochement means, as you will find if you go to that page or to a dictionary that includes this word, it just means coming together. It means joining, rejoining. You could say like mending a fence or clearing the air. The Wikipedia page gives a few examples. England and the U.S., the Great Rapprochement, I believe they call it. China-U.S. rapprochement. And we're hearing this word today in the news. I had heard it several times in the space of a week across many different types of presenters, your CNNs and your national news outlets, and then YouTubers and whatnot. Less common with the YouTubers. It does sound, it sounds like a better word than we should be using, rapprochement. But And I'm probably not pronouncing it 100% correctly, and that's totally fine because I'm in the US and we don't really care about those things. And then which large should you be using? Large, L-A-R-G-E .fyi. Someone actually took the time to do this. I have been hearing this way too much lately. The confusion, the conflation of meaning of at large and writ large. So we'll touch on that also later in the show. So let's get to American English. This is actually an interesting topic on its own. With the colonies and eventually the United States being made up of so many different people from different places, speaking different languages, American English was something of an amalgam of many spellings and pronunciations and synonyms, not to mention many languages, that have made ours a tricky language to learn. If you ask anyone from another country, another language background, if they've learned English, they will say it's a difficult language because all the words mean different things, different times, and the way you use them and so on. And because English is non-tonal, we imply certain things that are not really defined based on tone or word ordering, or so it can be a little bit confusing. People who I've spoken to who speak Chinese and learn English say that English is much more difficult, even though the Chinese alphabet is nearly as large as the global population, allegedly. The most interesting part, sometimes, of American English, and again, the use of the term American is tricky, especially in modern times, but you know that we mean the United States, U.S. English. It grows via common usage and is documented in updated or updating dictionaries, and it's documented after the fact. So a word doesn't enter a dictionary until it has reached some sort of common usage status, which means not all words are in the dictionary at any given time. So they'll appear in dictionaries, but often first in other places. The etymology of any given word, it can be a fascinating evolution from a Latin root, for example, or it could be the result of a YouTuber repeating something to a large enough audience that it catches on. And not to mention just generational usage, the playground evolution, I guess, something similar. Noah Webster, in his dictionary of 1828, I had it written right there, is essentially the beginning of some coherent mapping of words to meaning with a focus on simplifying and distancing the British English spoken by many. So we swap the R and the E in some words at the end of the words, and we spell color without a U, and the list goes on. So, and then you also have to combine the non-English words that were in use at the time and so on. And then that dictionary continues to grow. And Webster is a name that probably more than a few people know when they think of a dictionary. So words figure prominently in law, governance, but law general. Way back then when they were doing this stuff, there were concerns from the likes of Webster, Johnson, and I'm going to say Winchester. It's probably Winchester, but another lexicographer, yeah. I was almost going to say lexicographer, but I think it's a lexicographer. Let me make sure of that. What's dictionary? Noah Webster. Oh, it's a lexicographer. Oh, well, I'm glad I checked that. Lexicography. Yeah. It's silly. Apparently, I'm not ambidextrous by any stretch, whether it's left hand, right hand, or right hand brain, or speaking, chewing gum, and any of those things. So lexicographer. It sounds much better now that I know that. The meaning of words would figure strongly in the law and other such matters. So the terms used and their meanings needed to be concrete, explicit, well understood, and commonly understood. Interesting, perhaps the U.S. Constitution was written by speakers and writers of English. That is British English, making the first Johnson Dictionary an important tool for deriving intent from those words chosen. Not only in the Constitution itself, but in other writings like the Federalist Papers, not to mention the diaries, articles, letters between the so-called founding fathers, and so on. So when we look at the old words that were used back then, some 250, well, 17, is it 250 to 250 plus years ago? I mean, the formulative years before that, these were people speaking older English, British English, English that you might find in the Johnson Dictionary. Today we speak an English that has evolved substantially and which may be found in the likes of the Webster's Dictionary, M-W, whatever you might find in dictionary. You might look through the Oxford English Dictionary and see what they come up with. Maybe there's still some divergence between, as the saying goes, England and the United States, two countries separated by a common language. So the meaning does matter, though. And if you look at the Constitution through the lens of modernity, you might come up with some different implications. And that's where strict constructionism and certainly, at least at the bare minimum, using the definition of words that were used contemporaneously, the contemporaneous definition makes more sense than trying to imagine usage of words in ways unfathomable back then. So yeah, the Federalist Papers, by the way, you should read that. It's pretty interesting. While we are all experts in interpretations of internet speak when it comes to application of constitutional and statutory law, everybody knows, everybody's an expert. They all make YouTube videos about it. It is always apparent to those paying attention that the meaning of some words is lost on those creating their tricky content for their audiences, wherein they make their point by scoring points through motivated reasoning and confirmation bias. Words do matter, though, including how they are used and when. So if you're referring to the old words, you got to use the old meanings, the old sentence structure, etc. Changing those words is a thing, though. Literally and figuratively, as the title might have led you to imagine. Probably my favorite example of common usage overtaking common sense. There are countless articles on these two words, in fact, which appear at times to figuratively merge in their meaning and usage, but they do remain literally distinct words, and arguments on both sides are almost certainly not worth your time. Literally. No, figuratively, or maybe both. The latest craze, though, which I will admit right now, motivated me to actually create this episode for today. It motivated someone to purchase a domain name as well, not me. Research the usage, as you can read on the page there, and create a web page for reference. Is the merging usage of writ large and at large, which is detailed at that site and elsewhere. You can read about it in many places. Professional journalists, of all people, who should be good about writing and who should have the AP style guide at hand somewhere, which is referred to in the large.fyi website that is in the link section. Professional journalists have really jumped on this one, especially presenters that appear on TV or in podcasts or YouTube videos and whatnot. Choosing writ large every time when at large is probably more appropriate. If I were to simplify the summary, writ large is obvious, at large is ubiquitous. Newspaper and website headlines at large are writ large. See what I'm doing there? This is important and sometimes even critical because the changing meaning of words may take place rather quickly, and when literally everyone online can become enamored with some new and trendy use of a word at large, while those not in the cool circles, figuratively speaking, may come across words and word usage they are familiar with, but they are actually consuming a modern take on these words without knowing it, writ large. With an accent, sometimes matters. There's those tricky L's. An old word is receiving some new attention of late, a rapprochement, which I've already referred to, which really needs to be said with the accent, and maybe a bad one, maybe an outrageous French accent as well. This word is becoming popular again with the possibility of a U.S.-Russia rapprochement, though there remain concerns whether this is a good or bad thing given the circumstances. Still, got to use that word. I have heard that word multiple times per day at some points. Luckily, I think it became too much of a mouthful, as they say. A lot of syllables, got to have the accent. Rapprochement. Why don't you just say rejoining or getting back together? These are simpler terms. The word finds itself in reporting frequently without an offer to the casual consumer of this reporting what the word means. It's an old word, but by no means commonly used today or even known by the population at large, yet it is used writ large. You see what I'm doing here? Another popular word at home, here at home, coup, as in coup d'etat, is similarly left to chance, possibly because the English translation makes no real sense. Coup d'etat literally means stroke of state, which doesn't mean anything in English. So stroke of state, what is that? Oh, coup d'etat, of course. So we use the single word coup because we all know what that means, right? You know what that means. Coup. It's whatever Elon Musk is doing, or maybe whatever the Dems or the Libs are doing, or who knows. It means something different. Old world words used in other languages from other times, perhaps both, can be tricky because there is sometimes, even often, an implication in the word as it exists in this other language or from this other time that cannot translate directly to, say, English. Or perhaps the words sound cooler and they catch on as these things happen today. So we accept those words via popular usage, which is arguably common usage eventually. But do we all mean the same thing with these? If someone misuses coup or coup d'etat, then that might become the more popular interpretation because we're not using a translation because it doesn't really mean anything. So coup d'etat in the 40s or the 50s may mean something different in that context. And if you have someone who is familiar with that original or from that time frame context, meaning and usage, but you're exchanging ideas with someone in a modern time who is using it in a different way, then who is correct? And do you bother to ask? When you say coup, what do you mean exactly? I don't know. I heard it on YouTube. Old words in other languages are still a thing though, so you have to be careful. Even in our own language, English changes fast enough that English from 10 years ago is almost a different language in some cases. Loaded terms. Obviously, there are two words of late that get a lot of airtime. These are the words fascist and Nazi. And no, this is not going to turn into a treatise on either of those. These are heavy words. Do you know what they mean? Do you know exactly what they mean? Do you know what they really mean? Because they mean different things to different people. The problem with these words, these old but heavy words, they are applied in modern times with a lot of presumption, and not everyone shares those presumptions. Some might think these two words and a collection of other words are speaking to them directly. Others find them reprehensible, even though neither side might have real familiarity with what these words represent, historically, literally, and figuratively. Fascist, by the way, there's so many meanings of fascist because it was something coined by Il Duce in the during the World War II time frame. It's from fascia, a bundle of sticks tied together with a strap, but it was taken to mean, a form of extreme right nationalism, totalitarian government, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of implication, but that is not the required meaning. So when people say someone's a fascist, that's fascistic, you have to ask, what do you mean by that? Because there are different versions, different forms, et cetera. Just like saying that's democratic. Well, different countries have different forms of democracy. They may have a parliamentary system. We have our bicameral legislature system. They may have the three not quite equal forms of government. They may have something else. So you cannot simply apply a label and derive precise meaning. When we apply these labels, such as fascist, Nazi, racist, sexist, anything phobe, if you're a phobe, I'm a banana phobe. I don't really care for bananas. And so on, we may be applying them at writ large, but their meaning sometimes varies at large, and we rarely follow up with the audience to check which meanings they may be taking with them. This can be damaging and worse, but we rarely concern ourselves with the impact of word choices in the now. Like sometime down the road, they might say, well, you said this and that, but I meant that and this. Don't forget those new words. My favorite new word, hands down, is Riz, usually spelled R-I-Z-Z. You can look that up in your favorite Gen Z dictionary or modern slang or however they term it. I guess slang is what a word is before it enters common usage and is thus officially stored away in a dictionary. It is not immediately obvious that this is a shortened form of charisma. But once you know this, the word itself almost offers its own charisma with a single syllable, and that ending Z sound sounds reasonable. Riz. You got Riz. Other words off the top of my head. Hopefully you can hear the sound of plumbing. No problems, don't worry. It's just some water draining. Off the top of my head, cap, bet, no shot. These are the sorts of words often used online where content platforms and advertisers are looking for advertiser-friendly content. And then, of course, the reduction in syllables. No shot is a cleaned up version of an exclamation, you know what it is, that we could easily replace with really or no kidding, no shot. New words are an evolution. They often encapsulate meaning or intent based on common words that are longer to type or with more syllables to say, or they may be less acceptable for whatever reason, advertising or whatever. So replacements emerge, evolve. Many are temporary and fail to catch on, which you can test for yourself if you tell someone their drip is on fleek. They'll probably initially think, oh, you're using a really old word there. That word is out. So the take home, and so this is really more of a what works and how, not what works and what doesn't. If anything doesn't work, it's that people don't often check to make sure that the words that they are using or hearing and think they are understanding are actually being understood or used, respectively, in the intended manner. If I use a word from the original Johnson English Dictionary, but the meaning may have a subtle difference or a radical difference in the Webster's 1828 dictionary, and then even more differenter, RE. In modern usage, we have to really concern ourselves with: are we having a historical discussion? Are we having a use of words is critical discussion? Are we having a casual conversation where slang terms can be off a little bit? It's hard to say. And when you're talking about things like global peace, local war, and you have different languages being spoken without translators, without actual interpretation, it's easy to get caught up in implied meaning not getting all the way across. So the solution to all of this is to use your words deliberately with your audience in mind. If you, and I've said this time and time again in general, the closer you are to a person who does not speak the same language as you, as in it could be romantically, it could be familial, it could be just friendship, it could be a work colleague, etc. Or it could just be someone you encounter out in the world. It could be someone at a restaurant. It could be someone in a mall, anyone. So depending on how the relationship is valued, how close you are, will probably determine how concerned you are with whether they hear what you are saying or are able to take your meaning when you attempt to communicate it. And hopefully that's reciprocated. If you speak with jargon, for example, which we did not touch on here, or rarely used terms, if you begin to speak in the style of Shakespeare or Yoda or a Klingon, you might lose your audience, even if it's your significant other or their family who doesn't speak your language. They may look at you and think, what's going on here? This guy got to go. Or this person got to go. Or they might be right there with you. It's hard to say. Maybe it's easy to say. If you're at a Star Trek convention and you speak Klingon, it's probably a 50-50 chance someone will understand what you're going for, at least. If you're at Stratford-upon-Avon and start speaking Shakespearean English, they'll be there. They got you. So it depends. Check your audience and do you want them to understand what you're saying? At the same time, the internet has made access to knowledge much easier than it has ever been, even having improved a bit since yesterday, literally and figuratively. There is no reason to assume that you know exactly what someone intends or what the meaning is that they're using when you are hearing them, when you're reading them, and so on. When you hear someone say writ large and you find yourself saying, did they mean at large? You're probably correct. If you think to ask that question, you're probably onto something. And finally, be concerned about language and intent, literal meaning, figurative meaning, intent. These are the things that drive decision-making, that drive interaction between people, between countries, and so on. As they say, words matter, and you should use your words and know your words and look them up if you don't. And if you are hearing words that sound one way but might be used in another way, ask for clarification and so on. Communication is a really good thing. We should try harder at it, literally, at large. That's it. Don't forget your Riz. Thank you for listening as always, and that's where I'm going to leave it for today. Don't forget to check out the weekly Monday Buy Me an Update as well. I'll have some interesting tidbits, hopefully more so as the episode count increases. I think we're on episode 17. Yes, episode 17 is coming up next. And onward and upward from there. Excelsior. Look that one up. Cheers.